Prime time, biggest name to the game. Prime time, new name of the game. Yes, y'all. As you can see, we got a special edition of Prime Time. The M is silent and the M is small because in life, the smaller things will lead you to the biggest opportunities. Follow me on social media at Entertainer on all social media platforms and even on Cash App. Today we got a special guest. We got a special guest all the way from the CA, from California. She is a wife. She is a mother. She is an entrepreneur. She is a co-founder. Some call her RCL. Some people call her Raising Compassionate Leaders. See, she's a mother, so she knows about raising compassionate leaders. And you can find this young lady on LinkedIn. She goes by the name of Christina Johnson. It's a great day to have you. How you doing tonight?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's a blessing. It's a blessing. How's the weather out there?
I think it's going to rain today, so it is a little bit different than the usual sunny Cali weather.
Okay, that's a blessing. That's a blessing. Since you're in a dynamic situation, is you and your partner, which you're gonna talk about a little later. I picked the key word. The key word is sister, because when I do my research of who I'm going to interview and how I will interview them, I use a key word. So what stood out was the word sister. So in the word sister, the S is for story. Tell us about your story.
Happy to. So you mentioned sister. My sister, who is co-founder as well, is Danica Gordon Mandel, and she is incredible. So I'm sorry she's not able to be here with us. And so we're two of four sisters. We actually have one that lives in Florida, one that lives in Georgia as well, and we have children ranging from 0. We have a sister who's due early January-ish. I probably have that month wrong. But we grew up in a multicultural community and have had long discussions about race and how we want to raise our children. And so I currently work in higher education at a Research One institution. I've worked in collegiate athletics for a number of years as well. And one of the fundamental things that we talk about is really being able to, intersect with people that are different than us and appreciate who we are and who they are. So, I'm just happy to be here and shed any light on RCL as a whole with your listeners.
Okay. The eyes for inspiration. What are some other things what things that inspire you, and what inspired you to start? What are some other things that inspired you to start RCL, Raising Compassionate Leaders?
So I would say the main inspiration is just becoming a mother. I have been, I'd say, an advocate for mothers for, as long as I can go back. But really having 2 children has kind of changed my perception of where I should focus life in this world. I no longer can just continue on and only focus about the day-to-day. I really want to make sure that I'm creating something that can benefit the people around me and hopefully serve as a support system for my own children. So I have a son that's 1 and a daughter that's 5. And we live in Orange County, so we're one of a few people of color living in Orange County, and really talking about building a community with the folks that are around us was going to be really critical. So that I would say my children have been my inspiration, and obviously my sisters, who, when I see their children growing up, it's been very important to me to really address things that will be a part of their lived experience.
When you said Orange County, a lot of people won't really know like what cities, what major cities.
Yeah, so we are
what city?
Well, my husband's a demographer. Well, he was a demographer, so he's a little bit more geographically intact than I am. But Orange County is, I mean, if they know where Disneyland is, we're not far from Disneyland. So could that help at all? We're not Los Angeles.
Yeah, is that what? Would that be Anaheim, stuff like that?
Yeah, Anaheim. Yes. So we're not far from Anaheim. We're in Irvine.
Okay. Because I hear a lot about Orange County, and then because some people think it's directly LA or San Diego or
that is true.
So it's just it's always good to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. So if they go to Disneyland, they'll know kind of in the general vicinity where we are.
Because I have another friend that's a little further up north in Cali, and they're getting affected by a lot of the firestorm. So
absolutely,
it's always good to learn. And you were talking about your the essence for siblings. You were talking about you had a sibling in Georgia.
Who I do.
Yeah, that's where I'm at right now. I'm originally from Illinois, but I'm in. I tell people every day is great in the Peach State. So
yeah. Our sister Julia lives out your way. She's been out there for a number of years, but she works in finance, and she has a master's in public policy. So really, as we were driving, some of the elements for the research component for RCL, Julia played a very important role in that. So as we look at what are the resources for families, how do we dive into the nuts and bolts of how to create these conversations, and how can we bridge the intersects between academia and households. Julia was absolutely key to a lot of that work. So, but the sister that I'm working with directly for RCL is Denica, and Denica, as I mentioned earlier, is a licensed social worker as well as a therapist. And when you go through RCL and look at the framework, such as like setting a foundation, we have an exploration exercise on our website that helps you really assess where you are and how much work really needs to be done. And a lot of that component came from Denica. So she has been my motivation. We talked about inspiration earlier. She definitely is a huge part. I would normally say she's like the glue to all of the sisters, where she's kind of like Mama Bear, but she has children that are in their teenage years, and we really look to her to see how do we approach these conversations with our own children, because she's already been there and done that for her children.
It's like that magazine, Sister Sister. You remember that?
That is, I do remember that. I do.
Old school. The T is for time. Why is now the right time to do what you're doing, what you all are doing?
Yeah, I think this is all long overdue. When you think about time, that there have been people before us that have put so much time into it. There have been academics that have invested in a lot of time to talk about how do you provide resources, what are some of the things that families of color and then ones who want to be our allies, what can they do? So I think the time has been long overdue, but it's also been pretty continual. So at this moment, we're at that crossroads where we have started to begin the conversations around culture and competency, and how folks can really embrace the differences in other. And I think that unfortunately, the political climate also plays into that. But I grew up thinking that you don't talk about race, and you don't talk about your experiences when you have unfortunate, racism encounters. I grew up in an environment where you just don't discuss it, and you just kind of think it's a part of that everyday life. although I don't think it's going to go away completely, I think that if you can begin conversations about how people that are different from you are, and it's an opportunity to get to know someone. It's an opportunity to educate your children about why that person has more melanin in their skin, why this person has an accent. I think that you can begin the dialogue to figure out what your family value system is and how you can be more inclusive. And I'm happy that folks are being a little bit more mindful about media. I don't think that there's a great handle on social media at all. But as we share books and movies and games with our children, what are some of the things where they can see themselves in these books? And like my daughter, she's 5, and at some point in time, she came back to me, and I share the story often because it's like it was a pivotal moment for me where I realized I wasn't doing the work that I needed to do. She came to me and said she wanted to have blonde hair. Her hair is exactly like mine. And so when she said that, I asked her why. And she said, well, all pretty princesses have blonde hair. And I realized in that moment that it's really important to have representation and to really view people in different light and not allow peers and media to really share with you what people are. Because we know that there's a lot of bias out there and folks are insinuating about other people.
Okay.
The time is now, always.
The E is for education. Can you tell us about some of your upcoming events, upcoming webinars?
Yeah, so we have a webinar coming up on November 19th, which is addressing athletes as advocates. And we have Rafiq Muhammad, who's the Dean of Social and Behavioral Sciences at Cal State San Bernardino, as well as Tim Brown, who is a sports writer for Yahoo. And both have done a lot of work, Tim more specifically in activism and athletes, and he's covered a lot of sport from, Major League Baseball and NBA, whatnot. And then Rafiq has spent a lot of time researching how athletes have been viewed, depicted, and how they have they've worked to make inroads as advocates. So they're going to be doing a webinar together on the 19th of November. We also have webinars planned with UCLA scholars and storytellers, as well as Richard Tuckle, who is a movie producer. And they're going to cover diversity in media and how essential it is for the movie industry to really have representation across the board. And then we have some past webinars on there that I think would be meaningful for your viewers that cover different topics such as gaming and race and sports, as well as just how to raise compassionate leaders through resources.
Is all the information on the website as well?
It is, yeah, rcleaders.com.
Okay, make sure they check it out. Okay,
I appreciate it.
The R is for resources. What are some other resources that RCL brings to the table that we should know more about and why?
Yeah, so we categorize, we really focus on the PHIL framework, which is foundation that families should set, exploration, engagement, and leadership. So through that, if you go to our resource page, it's broken down by ages. And so we make sure that the content that we have is age appropriate. So we have from games to books to movies that we recommend and that we vetted. And then obviously we have the webinars that I discussed. We do implicit bias and training with corporations and organizations. So I think we have a whole host of resources that are really meaningful. And our board has been fantastic and has been invested in this process along the way. So we have folks that have specialties in so many different areas, from diversity in STEM and representation in education in the beauty industry. So a whole host of experts on our board that also lend to the resources that we have now.
All right, I appreciate that. Before we go, is there anything you'd like to add or share?
Yeah, I would, one, thank you so much for allowing us to be here with you. And if even one, person is invested in the process to make this a lifelong journey to educate folks around them. And I think it's important for everyone, especially in this moment, to obviously look to see how, in addition to investing in their families, they can reach across the aisle, in lack of better terms, to bring someone along with them on this journey. So I think it's a process, and we're all learning as we're going. But if we're invested in it and in our communities, then I think that we're only going to move past this moment of time that is probably not very comfortable for many of us.
Okay, because I definitely have a real good friend of mine. He works in the community through the higher education system right there in LA. So I definitely want to connect you too, because you never know who can help who.
Absolutely. I appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a blessing having Miss Katina Johnson on here. Like I mentioned earlier, she's a wife, she's a mother, she's an entrepreneur, and she has one goal, and that is to help raise compassionate leaders. You can reach out to that company on LinkedIn and go to their website, because there's a lot of insight there, like she broke down, and we all can help each other. We all can get information. So I enjoy her story and what inspired her and her sibling to start this company. And she said the time is now. The time is now. We all love sports, and we saw the work that a lot of athletes were doing in the bubble with voter registration, and so it's very important what they're doing.
Absolutely.
And she brought a lot of good resources to the table. So when you get a moment, whether you're watching it now or you watch it next week, make sure you go to their website, rcleaders.com. Ladies and gentlemen, another great episode of Prime Time. Like we say, the M is silent and the M is quiet, because many times the great things, they're small, but they're quiet. They lead you to the bigger opportunities. Follow me at Entertainer on all social media platforms and even on Cash App. And like I tell people, watch what you say and watch what you do, because people are watching you. And the things you say and the things you do may be the only school that they ever see. My good friend Zay Sanford at Zay Sanford Music, he brought us in. And now he's going to take us away.